Hello, welcome to YCFT. This week, we're doing a video on a particular film. I know, shocking. We're doing a video on a film. This is a film that I watched quite a while, like not too long ago, a couple of years ago. I think, did you watch it around the same time as me?
A few years ago,
yeah. And we rewatched recently. We think it's a film that just deserves more attention. We want more people to see it because it wasn't a massive release, and it's 2018's Summer of '84. There are no prizes for guessing when this film is set.
Yeah.
Our set dressing might be a bit confusing. The milk carton. The poster of this film was literally like it's a missing kid poster on a carton, and it's a big theme throughout.
Such an American thing, that isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
We never had that in the UK.
I know. Can you imagine? It's like,
I don't think we did anyway.
It's like, I'm going to put some milk in my coffee. Oh, this child is missing.
Yeah.
It's a great way to start the day.
It really is, isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, we recently rewatched it as we're going into our summer slasher season.
Summer phase.
And we just thought it's definitely worth talking about and just putting out there. Towards the end, we will go into massive spoilers because it's kind of. I'll say off the bat, the majority of this film is really well made and really well acted, but story wise isn't anything groundbreaking until the ending. So it's kind of impossible for me to sell this film.
It's a pretty simple story at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that we've seen quite a bit now. There's 3 directors of this.
There are 3 directors of this movie. So, and because they knew we were going to do this video, they all had very unpronounceable names. Francois Simard, Anouk Whistle, and Joan Carl Whistle. So I'm presuming the last 2 are brothers or something of that nature. We have 3 directors here,
directors. So I'm quite surprised it's as a cohesive story as it is.
Yeah.
And some really good kid actors in this. And this
kids.
film cements my theory that anyone called David is just destined for bad stuff to happen in films. The lead boy is called. And I'm going to do a quote from David in the Summers that kind of summarizes all of it. Every serial killer is somebody's neighbour. And I love that.
There's a lot of really good lines.
And basically, this small town, there's lots of themes about because he has an opening monologue about how you think the suburbs and that are boring, but it's actually that's where the craziest shit goes down.
That's literally the quote.
These kids are leading the standard boring summer, but there is a kid killer out there. The police are searching for a killer. And this group of kids, David starts to believe that his neighbour, Wayne, played by
a guy called Rich Sommer,
believes that he is the killer because of the milk carton. He recognises a missing kid that he saw in his living room. So he manages to convince his friends.
Yep.
And they spend the summer staking out this guy, trying to find proof that he is this child killer. And I think the film doesn't try and shy away from the fact that he is the prime suspect. It doesn't really give you many other options.
No.
It mainly emphasises how difficult it is as a child to try and convince adults.
The adults. This film very much pitches the kids against the adults in this film.
The kid actors in this are phenomenal.
All of them are great.
We realised upon second watching there are a lot of links to Stephen King's Stand By Me in this film.
Yes, there are.
Each of the 4 characters kind of represents the 4 kid characters in Stand By Me.
The original boys, yeah. I mean, even physically, arguably they do as well.
Yeah. So they spend time staking this guy out.
Trying to gather as much evidence as they can.
They're following his routine. He's a cop, which obviously to the community is very trusting. And this guy must have been killing for a long time.
Presumably, yeah, because he does actually have a name. He's the press have called him the Cape May Slayer.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember.
That must be the area.
Yeah, I think it's but I don't know if he comes up with the name himself because doesn't he write into.
He does. Yeah, there's a lot of links to Zodiac in this, and that was the main Zodiac link. Is that it's almost like he's bored that he's not been.
He's getting away with it.
He's getting away with it for too long.
This is too easy.
What I really like about this is we never actually get a motivation or much of a backstory on him.
No,
it's like we are looking at just a snippet in these kids' lives.
Yeah,
and of this killer's.
Yeah, we're just
spree.
The film starts already halfway in, pretty much to this town's story. In that we don't really learn. Everything we learn via the kids. Yeah, basically. And
the kids are the centre, but again, I think their dialogue is written fantastic, especially young teenage boys coming into their hormones and their sexuality. The way they kind of talk about getting laid and everything. It's these are the types of conversations that immature boys have.
Yeah.
One of them has a very attractive babysitter. Or someone that used to be his babysitter who's his neighbour, and he kind of always fantasises about, and
yeah,
it's Girl Next Door.
The Girl Next Door. I love all the boys.
I think they're all fantastic. They're all in very stereotypically Stephen King scenarios.
Well, look, all right. So this is very much of like part of the kids on bikes resurgence that we had in the late 2010s. Yeah, in the late 2010s, because I know we referenced it in another video, but obviously we had
Stranger... If that video's come out, I don't know the order. Long-time viewers know we don't plan the order of these when we don't always
plan. But so... I mean, in 2016 we had Stranger Things, which of course was just a huge phenomenon. Set in the 80s again, and people just found this newfound love and nostalgia for this very different time where kids would literally be outside playing on their bikes, playing Dungeons and Dragons, just like a lovely kind of reminder
simpler time.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you see kids on bikes and things like, oh god, shit's gonna go down now. Yeah. That's where I go to now. So if I see kids on bikes, it's like, people are gonna die.
Yeah.
That's that link I now have with that.
I know. And it's very, as you say, like very Stephen King-esque.
Yeah, it's like, also like it happens in film, like it was Super 8, I think it was another one.
Super 8, yeah, it was 2011. Obviously, It, 2017.
Yeah.
And there's been a few others. So this is like 80s nostalgia is really peaking around this time.
Yeah. What I like is, if obviously it being set in the 80s, it has the aesthetic, the look and the aesthetic. Oh, yeah, this is an 80s household and everything. But the way they've coloured it like a modern day film, which I think helps it stand out a little bit. It's a cool creative choice because there's an argument of, is this film even horror or is it a thriller?
Is it a thriller mystery movie?
I would actually say if you're not into horror, this could be a really nice introduction for you because it's basically a murder mystery.
It is a murder mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, is it scary? Are there jump scares in this film?
There's a couple of little jump scares, but like...
Is it designed to scare you?
I don't think so.
Do you think that's the ultimate aim of this film?
I think certain moments, we'll get into them a bit more, moments are made to
but I think horrifying.
The journey is more of the point of this one, of them trying to find the proof.
It's a coming of age story as well. I mean, again, going back to Stand By Me, the whole plot of that story is that these boys are off on an adventure to try and find a dead body. In this movie, these kids are on an adventure to try and prove this man guilty of murder.
Yeah. Well, it's even
very similar in
to an
premise.
extent, like it's David trying to prove to the rest of his friends that this happened.
Yeah.
There is a moment where, because it's always like, oh, why didn't you just go with the parents? There is a moment where, right, we need to go, like, now it's time to tell my parents. He says, guys, now it's time to tell my parents.
Yes.
And it just doesn't go his way.
It does not go his way.
He's literally holding there with a bloody shirt, and they still don't believe him.
No.
And what do his parents do?
They make him apologise.
They make him apologise to the killer.
Because, spoiler alert, the person that they are convinced is the killer is actually the killer.
Yeah, they were right.
The kids actually, like, the film doesn't trick you. It doesn't lull you into a false sense of security. There's no big twist to this film. The guy that they suspect is the guy that's doing it.
Yeah.
It's the kids that figure it
out.
out.
It's little things like the parents might overlook. It's like, oh, he buys a load of dirt and gardening tools every week. It's like, he's always doing his garden. It's like, who does that much garden? Oh, he has a car and a storage unit, which you pointed out. It's like, that's the same style of car that Ted Bundy had.
He has a Beetle.
Yeah, and he has a Beetle in a storage unit, obviously, to go off it. It's not going to be traceable.
There's a few nods to different serial killers in this movie. But yeah, the parents' reaction is, oh, Mr. Mackey?
It's like when they list all their suspicions, like they just have ways they can, dismiss all of it.
Yeah.
But there's a really good line from the dad in it when it's like, because when looking at the kid's situation, one of them is obviously his parents are always fighting. Another one is his mum's a single parent and she's a nurse, is clearly struggling. But it's like they're not hiding any of these issues from their friends. Like there's some things like, oh, do you want to stay over again? It's like they clearly help each other through these scenarios. Very real. And it's the babysitter characters, her parents are going through a divorce.
Which was like a bolt out of the blue.
Yeah. One thing I realised is how they portrayed it through her when she's like, it came out of nowhere and there was no fight.
And that's even worse.
They almost looked relieved.
Yeah.
And you very rarely see it portrayed like that. In films, usually like, oh, it has to be grand, there has to be a reason, one has to cheat on, there has to be a big fight. It's like, no, they just weren't happy. It just wasn't working. And I really appreciated that approach to it and her way of, I I can't register.
She can't.
She wants something
to
something to blame for why this is happening.
Yeah.
But there's a line that David's dad says, and it's like he explains, "Oh, they're getting a divorce." And Mum's like, "Oh, I never would have thought. I never saw." And he's like, "That's why curtains were invented."
Yeah.
The high things.
That's why they
pointed out later
curtains,
in the film. Whose curtains are always drawn?
Mr. Mackey's.
And they're red.
Yeah.
Red is bad.
Red is always bad. You know, going back to when I said that there's very little jump scares or no jump scares, there's a brilliant jump scare in this film.
With the radio.
So Davy is spying on Mr. Mackey, who just happens to literally live literally next door, and he's got his binoculars, he's looking out the window at Mr. Mackey. And there's this really horrible moment where Mr. Mackey is staring right back directly right back. Oh God, yeah,
so
that was.
Yeah, they all play a game.
He's onto them.
Manhunt, where they're split into all the kids in the block. A lot of them we don't really meet.
Yeah.
There are some have to hide and some have to catch them. It's like free internet. They have to entertain themselves. Apparently that was a real game that people used to play.
Yeah.
And they have radios.
They do have. Yeah.
And they plant one of the radios
at Mackey's house.
Yeah, and that's it. He finds it on the window.
And he just leaves it there, doesn't he, for them to find? Because it's his way of saying, "I'm fucking onto you, boys."
Yeah. Because he was onto them way before they were made to confront him and say, "Oh, he thinks you're a murderer."
Yeah.
But one thing that I really like, I said we don't get a lot of explanation or backstory.
Mm.
Again, it always annoys me in films when we, as the audience, see something and we're kind of waiting for them to eventually tell us that that's what we've seen.
Yeah.
He's a cop, and at some point, you can't see him as a neighbourly type. I think that's why they picked the guy to play Wayne. He is
unassuming,
yeah. And he offers him, "Oh, if you come in, I've got some old police radios that'll work way better. So they pick up anything." I think he's been listening to their radios the entire summer.
It's a good observation, maybe.
Yeah, because it's never directly said. When I watched it, I was like, that would make... Because they're communicating with these radios all summer. And if you're hunting down children who all play this game as well, you're going to know exactly where they are. Of course he's listening in on their radios.
And when you tie that back into the fact that this guy has actually written into the police because he's trying to get a bit of notoriety, it would make a bit more sense. Like, he's trying to up the ante a little bit for himself. It's like, okay...
Life's not too simple.
Life's a bit too simple. These kids suspect me, so let's have a bit of fun with this.
Yeah.
Let's see how far they get. I think you're probably right there. Yeah.
And so going into some spoiler territory now is when they need to get proof. They need to get in his house.
Yes.
This, again, we are not given a lot of... all serial killers have, a thing.
They do.
This is
He has
a female family. They go into his basement. Because David doesn't actually go down to his basement with them early in the film because he's setting up a red room.
Yeah, and he notices there's a locked door.
A locked door.
Within the basement.
And in that locked door is a child's bedroom.
Mm.
And someone locked up and someone decomposing in the bath. Which is fine at the point where the parents are like, "Oh, okay. All right, this is enough." But then they go upstairs and they see all the photos where he said, "Oh, they're his family." He has photos that he's literally out in the open. They're photos of the families he's killed.
Yeah, photos of the boys.
Yeah, well, not just the boys, but the whole family.
But it's like he's literally collecting his own.
Yeah, that's when David sees a picture of his own family.
He sees himself, and his mum and dad on the wall.
Yeah,
and he knows he's next.
Yeah.
It's
also that's how confident he's got. Is he literally has photos of dead people on his walls. If anyone, again, that's how unassuming he is. That people probably have been in his house and just not thought anything of it. But we don't know what his motive... It's clearly something to do with wanting a family.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But he doesn't... There's no monologue by the villain explaining
why
he's doing it. And
it doesn't explore it in any way. It's just, oh, okay, it's all right, so that's there. And then it just is sort of left to you to sort of piece pieces of the puzzles together.
Yeah, this is the second time I've watched it, and I noticed things I didn't notice. I reckon the third time I'll probably notice a few more as well.
It's even like when you backtrack to the scene where Davy's dad makes the boys go and apologise, and Mackie even says, "Why don't you come in and look around? If you're that suspicious, feel free." Because he knows the dad is going to be too embarrassed to take him up on that offer. It's like he's so fucking cocksure of himself.
So I love it later on when he comes around to talk to Davy in his own home.
Oh, yeah.
Because the office because he says "Oh, that's my nephew," the kid that they saw in there, and it's "Oh, why you say you could call him?" he says, "Oh, I could call him," and Dad's like, "No." So they answer, when he comes out, like, "Could you call him?"
Would you mind just for like my reassurance?
Yeah.
And he's like, sure thing, give me the phone, I'll call him now. So he makes a call, but then they figure out he's just called his own house.
Yeah, he called his own house. Because we do see that, like, he broke pattern because he did kill the family, not just a child at one point. So clearly, like, something went wrong at one point.
Yeah.
There was more people there than he intended.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really, really good film, and
there is. I love the sequence, especially where, so the Davy's kind of. It's that point in the summer where they've tried to gather enough evidence, but some of the boys, the friends, they're sick and done with it because also at this point, someone that we've never met, we hear on the news, has confessed to the killings.
Yeah.
And as far as some of the boys are concerned, oh well, it's done. We had it wrong. It wasn't Mackie after all. Davy is not convinced, and Davy knows it's Mackie, so he convinces Woody and some of the others to help him finally get the evidence that they need. So that's when Woody, and the babysitter, they go into the house with a video camera.
Yeah.
And that's when they discover the decomposing body in the bathtub and actually a boy that's been kept
they actually rescued someone
alive. I love the scene immediately. It's a bit of a jump scare where you see the body and whatnot, and the poor boy that's like, just help me, please help me. It cuts to a scene in the police station where they're watching the video.
Yeah, with David's parents there.
With the parents, who of course are now like, oh my god, shit, our boy had it right.
He's like, he's been in my home. He helped me put stuff in the attic.
This is our neighbour. It's Mr. Mackie.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Mackie.
Every time he said Mr. Mackie, I was thought, okay. And he's South Park fan. I'm sure I said also, okay.
But I love that scene. It's like, it's vindication. You very rarely see that in horrors.
But it's also like,
oh, they got the footage.
Instantly the police are like, go get it. It's like, oh, police are being useful.
Yeah. It's also like, your son's a fucking hero.
Yeah. But, alright, we're going into major spoiler territory.
Yes.
I admit the first time I watched it, when he said, oh, he helped me put some stuff in the attic, I never thought that would be a callback later.
No.
This is like, we are spoiling the entire end of the movie, so...
we need to do it though, folks.
We absolutely need to do it, folks.
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling it? Folks? Folks, gang. Yeah. If you do have any intention of watching this, and you don't want any of it spoiled, now is the time to...
Turn away.
Log off.
Although we have just talked about who the killer is.
but the film's unapologetic in who the killer is throughout the entirety of it. I never thought it could be anybody else.
They could have pulled a twist.
They could have.
They didn't. They didn't cheat us.
They do, but the twist, you had one. Look at both cameras. One. So he's in the loft. David and Woody. Well, Woody's staying there while his mum's like at work, because she clearly works nights.
Yeah.
And you see this great sequence of him coming down from the loft, and he chloroforms them, takes them to the woods. This is when we really get an idea of just how many people he's killed, because we see where he's been taking the bodies, or the decomposed bones. He's literally just been dumping them in the forest.
Yeah.
And he wants to play manhunt with them.
He does want to play manhunt.
He sets them loose in the forest and goes after them.
And he goes after them. Because at this point, guys, Mr. Mackie is very pissed off.
Yeah, his life has now been ruined.
He's a wanted man.
He may have wanted to risk it and get caught, but on his terms, not on the terms of a child.
On his terms, yeah.
Yeah, so it's great. This is when it becomes a bit more of a horror movie for me.
Yeah.
Like, decomposing bodies aside earlier. And we get the only actual kill that we see in the film. It's Woody.
It's his friend.
His friend is brutally stabbed. He's stabbed in the neck. I think he has his throat slit.
His throat is slit.
Yeah.
And also Woody, I guess it's not relevant necessarily to the story, but I just think it's also important to say Woody is like the overweight one of the group.
Yeah.
He's the one, like, he's not the best, he's not, out of all of them, he's probably like the least good looking guy, and he's like down on his luck. His mum is, really struggling, they don't have a lot of money. Woody is like the one from the beginning that has your heart.
Yeah. He's such a nice character.
He's just the loveliest guy. He's Davy's best mate. They're all of them are sweethearts, but Woody especially is like, oh man. And it's Woody that's fucking murdered.
But the big twist, because he does get to Davy, slices the Achilles heel.
Oh, he does.
This is the part which sets this film apart for me. He says to him, I'm not going to kill you. Like, basically, I'm not going to kill you yet. He's like, I'm going to come back. And when I do come back, I will kill you. I want you looking. He's like, I want you looking over your shoulder
every day.
That's his punishment. Is that he has to live
in fear.
Knowing that he's going to come back. He has to live in fear. That for me instantly. Because I was first time I watched, I was like, oh, this is good. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Nothing special. But then suddenly it's like, okay, there we go.
There we go.
That is it. I can't think of many other films like that.
No. And then by the time it gets to the very, very end, like literally the final scene, we both asked ourselves, like, was it worth it?
Yeah. Was it worth it at the end? Is because his best friend is dead.
Yep.
His other friends, we get one scene where he's like on his bike. His friends have like dismantled the treehouse that they've been in. You can kind of get the feeling that friendship is kind of destroyed because they will blame David for Woody's death.
Yeah.
His love interest, the babysitter, has moved away.
She's moved away. Yeah.
And
I mean,
was it worth it? They may have saved someone's life, but his best friend has died, and he's now going to live. It could be tomorrow, could be 10 years, 20 years,
could be never.
Yeah, because they don't catch him. He's gone.
But at the end of the day, the threat is there.
The threat is there,
and that Davy will never be the same again.
No,
Davy's life in his own way is ruined.
Yeah,
in its own way is totally ruined. And I do love the framing because we start this film when he's doing his paper round.
Yeah.
I know, we see the headlines of like Kate Mayslayer at large, and we end the film when he's doing his paper round again, and now it's like Kate Mayslayer still at large.
Still at large.
Yeah, it's just now we know his name.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it does kind of leave you wondering, like, fuck, he's gone through all of that for what?
For what?
Arguably, he's worse off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. A boy was saved, and Mackie now has to go on the run. But
he will come back.
He will kill again, probably.
Yeah. If he's been killing for as long as we think he has done, he knows how to keep himself hidden.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and also, he's a cop.
He's a cop, yeah.
He's a cop. He knows evidence stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, it would be harder for him now that his face is out there.
Now his face is out there, so he will have to move, like, far away, presumably, but I mean...
Yeah, but he will come back. And that, for me, it just sets it apart from other films in this genre, like murder mystery. It's like, you don't get any...
No, there's no, like...
satisfaction in the ending.
There's no satisfaction, really. It's like, yeah, okay, we know who he is now, but where's the justice? There is such a lack of feeling of... There's no, like, catharsis in this film either, and it just leaves you feeling sad.
Yeah.
It's also... Sorry, just going back to the psychology of the killer. I know we were saying, like, we don't really go deep, like, take a deep dive into his psychology necessarily, but... The fact that he is a child killer and he has a penchant for boys do you think there is like an implication of like a sexual thing, or is it just it purely familial? There's
certain scenes like when he's handing out the popsicles and I don't know, maybe why was one of them kept alive?
Yeah, chained up in the bathroom.
It's like there has to be. It feels like he keeps them alive for a while because there's a whole bedroom there. But again, we just don't know.
We don't know. There's such a lingering mystery to the whole thing. Some of the other references to killers. So yeah, we've talked about the Beetle. Ted Bundy famously had a Volkswagen Beetle. The suspect that confesses to the crimes or that they have in custody, he's called Arthur Ray Peterson, which I think is a direct connection to Zodiac because the main suspect in that case was a guy called Arthur Lee Allen. So we get the three names. And one of the photos of the missing kids on a milk carton, it was an actual victim of John Wayne Gacy, the clown killer.
Yeah. So, another link to Stephen King, because that was potentially one of the influences. Stephen King's never outwardly said, but around the time it was written, was one of the influences for it.
Of it, potentially, yeah.
So that's Stephen King seeping its way into it again. Yeah. This film feels like a love letter to Stephen King for me. That almost the genre that he created within the books.
It absolutely is. Like a bit of maybe like a Spielberg reference as well, because he kind of glorified the whole like, kids on bikes phenomena as well. Like kids just doing kids stuff pre-internet days.
Yeah.
But absolutely, like this could easily have been adapted from a Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt about it. There's so many echoes of Stand By Me in this. It's a really decent film. It's kind of bit of a... Would you say it's a slow burn?
Yeah, I'd say so. I've seen that's one of the criticisms of it, is that the plot takes a while to get going. I didn't personally feel that.
Yeah.
I really like the score as well. It is a slow burn. But I was interested in what was going on.
Yeah. It always holds my attention.
It's even if it was just a generic ending, I think I still would have enjoyed it enough to possibly rewatch it again.
Yeah.
But that ending just kind of smells, oh, this is something special.
Yeah. This was actually Shudder's second biggest premiere in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just Mandy was its biggest.
Of course. If anyone hasn't seen Mandy with Nicolas Cage, that deserves a video on itself, but that is something to tackle. Have you seen it?
I've seen Mandy.
Yeah.
It's all
I saw that.
It's a weird
I saw that
adventure.
in the cinema. That was an experience.
But yeah, argument to be made if this is actually a horror.
Yeah.
I would probably say it is. It has horror elements for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to make this episode a horror or not, because I think there's horror elements in it enough to say, yeah, you can put it in that genre, but you could just as easily put it in the same genre as Zodiac.
A Zodiac, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the investigation into who done it.
Yeah. So yeah, have you made it through all your notes?
I think so. I mean, I really enjoy this movie. I do think in the last 15 minutes where we see more action, it's a tough watch.
Yeah.
It's emotional.
It's tough watch because you are very attached to these characters at that point.
You are.
And I just think Wayne is a fantastic killer. Part of me is like, even though it's great on its own, I kind of want to know where the story goes.
Yeah, because it's also it ends when there's still so many unanswered questions.
Yeah.
You just...
It's kind of...
It's life,
It's
isn't
the point where it's just it's just a snippet in these characters' lives.
Yeah.
And in real life, you don't get all the backstory as you're going along.
You don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Because unless he was going to do a villain's monologue...
Yeah.
How else are they going to find out the information?
This is a story told pretty much entirely from the kids' point of view.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that side of it. And the kids' performances are great.
Yeah.
They really carry the film.
Phenomenal.
Especially because, as we were saying, there's not really a huge ton of action throughout the film. It is more just them accumulating the evidence, talking to each other on their walkies, doing 80s stuff.
Yeah. But
the performances alone are really endearing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely worth a watch, this film.
Really is. As I said earlier in the video, if horror isn't really your thing, I still think you'd get a lot of enjoyment out of this.
Yeah. I agree. I really do agree. Again, the scares are minimal. And I read one review and they said that was kind of to the film's detriment, that it wasn't overtly scary. But I also don't think it's not the film's intention necessarily. No. It's not that kind of a film. It's more a character study. I suppose. Yeah. It's a mystery.
It's almost like I said, a strange love letter to Stephen King. Also, strangely, a weird love letter to our fascination with serial killers.
It is. The
psychology of serial killers. Our generation is obsessed with serial killers and conspiracy theories. You're about to say that he's a conspiracy theorist. Yeah. It's all over his walls.
It's all over his walls. He's got newspaper clippings of different killers, of Bigfoot is on there. This kid is destined to be a investigator himself at some point.
Well, he is.
He is an investigator, yeah. Better policeman than his dad.
Yeah, well, his dad's a journalist, isn't he?
Oh, his dad's a journalist.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for stopping by this week. We hope our aim with any video we do is to pique enough interest for at least one person to go out and seek out the films that we talk about. But this is one of those ones we know it's got good reviews and people who've watched it, especially on the likes of Shudder, like it.
Yeah.
But not enough people are aware of this film's existence.
Exactly. It's if you're a fan of Stand By Me, if you're a fan of It, especially the 2017 movie, it's pretty much conclusive, I think, that you will enjoy this film. It's a similar sort of tone and similar idea. Even just the fact that it's set over the summer.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks again, and we will see you next week.